Russia announced its retreat from Kherson overnight, saying that its position on the western bank of the Dnipro was untenable, and today said its forces were withdrawing according to plan. Ukraine announced today that it had recaptured 12 villages less than 10 miles from Kherson city itself. Our foreign affairs correspondent, Porrick O'Brien, joins us now. Porrick.
Jackie, it is worth remembering that about 50% of Kherson region is still under Russian occupation. Nonetheless, today's events are dramatic. This network of villages taken by the Ukrainians in the direction of Kherson city. The Ukrainians are moving at pace here, but the Russians are not leaving Kherson city out of the goodness of their hearts. They're leaving it because they were beaten in that city, and here's how. Over the last weeks and months, the Ukrainians have been targeting their supply lines. They've been cutting the logistic legs from under their operation, thus the retreat. So when the Ukrainians enter Kherson city, what will they find? For one thing, they'll find mines, lots of mines. We understand that large sections of the city are booby-trapped. And the other thing they will find are tales of brutality directed at civilians. Yesterday, myself and the team travelled to a recently liberated village in Kherson region. And every time we go to these villages, we are struck by the number of people in these tiny villages that have experienced this sort of brutality. So if that's what we are seeing, imagine that, but instead of a tiny village on a citywide scale.
The Russians gave the order to retreat, advancing Ukrainian soldiers given permission to post progress online. A flood of videos on social media today, troops filming themselves retaking village after village in all directions around Kherson city. This verified video is in the village of Kiselivka, about 10 miles from the regional capital's airport. Just a few settlements between here and Kherson city itself. A swathe of the district, declared Russia by Putin, is mile by mile Ukraine. But caution too. Soldiers wary of a trap. They're not alone. A senior advisor to Zelensky today accused the retreating Russian army of planning to shell Kherson city to ruins, placing mines in apartments and sewers. He said they wanted to turn it into, quote, a city of death. But the jubilation is real for both servicemen and the civilians who've come out to welcome them. The first sign of the return of Ukrainian control to a region Russia illegally annexed just weeks ago. The soldiers are the first wave. Then weeks down the road, the rear guard. The return of Ukrainian state services. To the sounds of shelling nearby, we're travelling with the Ukrainian Postal Service, en route to a village called Nikolaivka in Kherson region. The van in front has precious cargo, the pensions of elderly residents.
This is a postal run like no other. As we're driving through some of the villages, we've heard and seen incoming, coming from Russian positions in that direction to Ukrainian territory here.
The village was liberated just weeks ago. Today, people will receive their pensions for the first time in 8 months.
Всі документи повинні бути, паспорта, коди всіх, на кого ви будете отримувати кошти.
The average pension here is the equivalent to about £20 a week. The people in the crowd have not even had that since February. In the capital, Kherson city, it's the same, except with no payment day in sight. But to really get a sense of the trauma caused by Russian occupation here, your best bet, join the queue for a couple of hours.
Не переживайте, вас не пропустять. Да.
Yulia Burke is the acting mayor of the village. Stayed when others did not.
Ми всі тут разом працюємо над тим, щоб краще жило наше село, щоб село наше піднімалося з колін.
Та я там знаю.
Виконую обов'язки старости.
What happened to the last mayor?
А що случилося з попереднім?
Ну, він евакуювався.
The last mayor left. She stayed. People like Yulia are coy about their wartime heroism. So the people around her again take over the interview.
Ну, я надіюся, що я
Юлія Івановна чесно і добросовісно з нами прожила всю війну.
What did you say?
Юлія Івановна, вона живе коло нас по сусідству, вона прожила з нами всю війну. Ми з нею пройшли все, деякі питання вона все вирішувала, всі йшли до неї.
Оформляла допомоги?
Допомоги оформляла в воєнний час, вона все абсолютно брала на свої плечі. Так, це дійсно так.
Were you about to say something as well, madam?
І нам страшно, і вони нам допомагали.
Was it scary for you also?
Для вас теж страшно було?
Звичайно.
Було страшно, бо її били. Ручки били їх взагалі. Нічого.
It turns out that Yulia and her husband were badly beaten with the butt of a gun for not cooperating with the Russians.
Ну, вони били мого чоловіка, я хотіла захистити, вони били мене.
Били як? Ну, а я не знаю, ногами, автоматами, що?
Ну, мене прикладами били, чоловіка всім підряд били.
Next in the queue, Valentina. Her son was captured by the Russians and has disappeared. She doesn't know where he is. If these are the experiences in the pension queue of a tiny village, imagine the horrors that will come to light when a whole city is liberated, Kherson City. But this queue for a first post-invasion pension also represents hope. In illegally annexed areas, the Russian ruble is the enforced currency. Inside the town hall here, they collect their pensions. The residents of Kherson City are watching. It's not very much, but it's in Ukrainian hryvnia.
Porrick O'Brien reporting. Well, joining me now from Kyiv is Alina Frolova, who was Ukraine's Deputy Defence Minister between 2019 and 2020, and from Tallinn, Kadri Lik, a Senior Fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Thanks, both of you, for joining us. Alina Frolova, first, if you would. Russians are calling it a manoeuvre of units. What do you call it? Is it a withdrawal, a partial retreat, a victory?
Well, that's obviously withdrawal. Good evening. And that's withdrawal is not a goodwill, as your correspondent said, that Ukrainians worked hard and pay a lot of lives for pushing them out of here.
The Ukrainian response has been quite cautious. Why is that?
I think that, first of all, we are a nation which is taking care about its people. We don't want devastations. We don't want losses among the soldiers. We don't want losses among the civilian population. So we do the best, probably with, we better spend the time than the lives. And this is quite a big difference between what Russia is doing and what Ukraine is doing. And this is quite a big difference between these two civilizations which we represent.
And in terms of what you call this withdrawal, how significant is it, do you think, in the wider picture?
Obviously, they left the right bank, probably still the Ukrainian forces. We don't have so much information now. Yes, you was absolutely right, your correspondent, when he said that it's only today we started to receive some proofs and videos from the released territories. But looks like they left a right bank, and then we'll see where else Ukrainian forces will do counteroffensive, because I suspect that would be not only right bank of the Kherson.
Kadri Lik, when Putin declared the illegal annexation of Kherson and other areas with a huge ceremony, you know, he vowed to defend the territory with all the powers at his disposal. Now we see this withdrawal. How will this be playing for Putin in Russia?
Well, I think inside Russia it was staged very carefully. It was General Surovikin, who is in charge of the military operation now, who made the announcement.
Давай, 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 давай. Прям так, на. Где костер, блядь? Все, нормально, братан, все? А? Нормально? Я не слышу! Брат, я не слышу, у меня контузия. Я понял. Блядь! Уёбай нахуй, блядь! Ехать, эй! Держи рюкзак, рюкзак! Быстрее! Быстрее, давай, быстрее, блядь! Быстрее давай, костер! Варик, блядь! Стой! Варик, быстрее, блядь! Быстрее, Тома! Тома! Стой! Стой! Тома! Сюда давай, блядь!